Welcome to the 3 Degrees of Freedom podcast, where we explore lifestyle engineering with our expert guests to bring you in alignment with your own 3 degrees of freedom, location, time, and financial independence. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. Today, we've got Mr. Randy Smith. Hey, Randy, how are you today?
I am doing really well, Derek. Yourself?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for asking, sir. So for
All
those
right.
who don't know Randy, he is the founder of Impact Equity, which was formed to help investors achieve strong results in their passive real estate investing strategies. And Randy's main responsibilities include introducing and assisting investors with investment opportunities offered by various real estate investment firms, which is really cool. Really neat service. We're going to talk about that in just a second. Randy started his real estate investing career doing out-of-state single-family long-term rentals, just like me, and then quickly realized the many additional benefits he could receive by switching his strategy to passively investing in multifamily syndications. Bingo. Love it. Randy has now invested in 20 different passive investments with 9 operators, giving him a unique knowledge and expertise to recognize strong passive opportunities and understand how they work. And Randy currently is in Arizona, Peoria, with his wife, and he spent 25 years in various business development and leadership roles in corporate America. Randy, quite the intro. It is awesome to have you on board. How are you today?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. That is an intro I have heard before, and it's a little bit more lengthy than maybe I had intended. But yes, that's a good summary of the last 25 years of my life. Yeah.
Very cool. Hey, let's just jump right in then. So as this show is for the 3 degrees of freedom. We've got location, time, financial. Which one of those 3 degrees of freedoms would you say that you either have the most headway in or the strongest in right now? And then which one do you think you want to grow more into?
Interesting. Yeah. So that is, gosh, that's a really good question. Looking between location, time, and financial, I would say time is not one of my strengths right now because I am a new entrepreneur, which oddly enough, I left the W-2 8 or 9 months ago, and I feel like I'm working more now than I've ever worked,
Yeah.
albeit I'm enjoying it much more. So time freedom is not as much of a concern as it was. When I think about probably financial freedom is really my big lane right now. The passive investing that I've done, the real estate investing that I've done has really created an environment where I can choose how I spend my time, choose how I spend my money, and choose where I get to move about. So yeah, financial freedom, I guess, is the key.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I love that's there. And as far as you're the strongest in that one, as far as like time and location freedom, which one of those two would you say that you want to work on a little bit more? Like, is there a desire for you to even go and travel full time if you wanted to? Or is that not possible with kids or harder with kids?
Sure.
Tell me a little bit more about which one of those, if you had to pick between time and location, which one you would choose?
Yeah. So it's a good question. And I think that, you know how they say, if you love what you do for work, you never work another day in your life. So I'm not so much looking for the time freedom anymore because I really do. I can choose what I do. I just happen to choose to focus on these areas that I'm focused on right now, which I really enjoy. One of the things my wife and I are trying to do is we like to vacation. I have a goal to see all of the 7 continents, a lot of big bucket lists that I'm trying to achieve. So I think location freedom is probably one that I would like to have more of. And my wife and I have different needs in that respect, in that her career requires her to be in a geography, whereas mine, I can really be anywhere in the world if I'm willing to be up at weird hours if I'm over on the other side of the world. Yeah, I think personally I'd like to have more location freedom. Yeah.
I see. And so how do you think you will resolve that going forward? Do you think that's something that maybe you guys will just grow into over time as your business grows, and then she doesn't need that job anymore? Or is that something that you guys are negotiating with the employer, or is it something that just hasn't been on your radar yet? I'm just curious how you want to
Yeah.
achieving that.
Yeah. So it's interesting. My wife actually left her W-2, I call it 4 or 5 years ago. And
Oh, wow.
she worked in social work for 20 some odd years. And she is now an author, and she is pursuing a therapy business, which does require her to a certain extent to be available in person to meet with her clients. We're really curating her business at this point to where she can have a little bit more flexibility with that. So
Yep.
she is not tied to face-to-face interactions. But the beauty of what she does is you can actually be a therapist in the Zoom model or phone model as well, which really frees up you from a location standpoint. And then it really just becomes like, how can I create a positive, effective work environment while I'm on the road? And we just need to start digging into that more, I think. Yeah.
That's awesome. Very cool. So you said that she is she fully virtual, or she needs to be at an actual physical location?
So she's actually shifting from fully virtual to
Oh, I
probably
see.
doing 1 day a week in person is what she'll be moving to. But again, this is just another season in that career. And I suspect 6, 9, 12 months through that process, and we'll see it evolve as well. But it's not something that is keeping us from traveling too much really at this point. But if the wifey wants to stay home and be near the house more, then that's what we're going to do. So yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. Very cool. It's very apparent that you've done a lot of work in the corporate world and also doing small rentals, just like I did
Mhm.
at a long distance for many years.
Yeah.
How would you say that you're able to incorporate some of those skills that you had in in that environment, plus the rental business, to help leverage into becoming what I call a professional limited partner, a professional passive partner? How did you say that you came about that?
Yeah. So it's for my career, I was a sales guy and I had quite a bit of autonomy the last, call it 10 years of my career, where I could really schedule my day. And so long as I was hitting my numbers, I really could do whatever I wanted to do. So it really put us in a position where I had some flexibility to go out there and get my hands dirty with some active investing, specifically in single family. We did the Burr model primarily. There was a lot of flights to this other place. There was a lot of calls with contractors, property manager calls constantly. But ultimately, at the end of the day, doing any one of these things is like project management work. And as a salesperson, I had very large projects, which were clients. So I would take clients from position A to position C and walk them through that journey, which really translated well over into the single family place because it was the same thing, just
Mhm.
managing a project, doing a construction on one, and then finally it goes live and you hand it off to the property manager. So those skills, I think, are something that's really valuable. And whenever I'm talking with investors or I'm talking with people that are in the real estate space, it's always this idea of let's try to figure out what your superpower is, whatever that may be, and let's see how we can fix that or fit that into this new model that you're trying to get into. Because, like I said before, if you're happy and excited and you love what you're doing, it's not work anyways. So let's find what
Right.
you're good at. Let's layer that over what you're wanting to achieve. And then I think results are inevitable at that point.
I think that's awesome. There's a For those who don't know what passive investing is, maybe you can explain that a little bit. And then I was going to say something about how you should use your unfair advantage or your passion. Same, I think it's the same thing, right?
Same thing.
Because it's the
Yeah.
thing that you've most likely built your career around and built your skills around. If you want to spend and siphon off your time to try to invest actively in properties with the time that you've built with a craft, right? That most likely the
Mhm.
marketplace is paying you lots of money for. You should
Right.
take that advantage and use that to turn around and then leverage other people's passion and other people's strengths, right? So that way everyone kind of wins in this situation. But
Yep.
before we get there, I wanted to hear what you have to say on that, but then also kind of preface that a little bit with what is passive investing and how does it work in general?
Okay. So answering the first part, that whole who not how thing is a really great book. Dan
Yeah.
Sullivan, Darren Hardy, fantastic book that says essentially figure out what it is you're good at, just like you said, and then do that. And then everything you hate doing, find somebody that loves doing that. And one, you're going to be more happy. And two, you're probably going to be much more productive and effective in whatever it is that you're doing, right? So, and it's a good prelude going into like why I personally chose to do passive investing versus active investing in single family. And I found out pretty quickly before we had bought the 100 homes that I think everybody kind of shoots for after they figure out the math and all of that other stuff. I found out very quickly that one, finding old ugly houses, renovating old ugly houses, putting tenants in there that are definitely don't love the property as much as I do, and then dealing with property managers whose primary purpose is to make money on construction and rehab and fixes and things like that was not my passion. I found out very quickly. What I found out was that I was very good at earning a high income W-2 wage. And the more energy and effort I put on that job, that spit out more money on the back end that I could then filter off over to passive investments. So by focusing on what I do best, which was sales, I earned really good money that I could then go find experts at this other space in real estate investing and essentially hire them to be good stewards of my money. And then I work really hard, make good money, give them the money, and then sit back passively and watch true mailbox money hitting the bank account every single month. So passive investing is exactly that. Like after you find a good operator and a good deal, you invest in the deal, and then you sit back and let the experts do what the experts do, which is operate very big businesses that will then you get to share on the upside on the back end.
That's right. Yeah, I love that. Thank you for going through that journey. And you can see, for those of you who are listening, this is a great way to fit into your passive or into your freedom journey, because there's a lot of things that are happening here. You're essentially giving yourself a source of income no matter where you are, right? And no matter what the time is. Like you invest the money into this, and then you just have income coming into your bank account without you having to do anything. Granted that you made the right selection, you did your homework, and you're listening to people like Randy to be able to select the right investments, which is where I'd like to go next. Let's talk about this. I don't have this question here, but I'm just curious about, some of the tips that you give to help people select the right passive investment when it comes to real estate investing for those who are interested in that type of investing. Can you tell us a little bit about the things that you look for as a professional passive investor in specific operators and markets, risks, business plans, anything? I'd love to hear your take on it all.
Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, I think before anybody goes out and starts finding assets or opportunities or deals or even asset classes or markets, I think it's really important that the individual investor knows exactly what is it that they're trying to get from investing in real estate. And I really like your 3 degrees. Are you looking for location freedom, time freedom, or financial freedom? And that is very different. I remember when I first got into the space, like I just knew I wanted to invest in real estate. And quite frankly, I didn't really know why I did. I just knew I was excited about it. And what I found out was being a high income W-2 guy, I wasn't necessarily looking for cash flow on a monthly basis to replace my income. I really wanted to grow that bucket of cash that I had devoted to this investment. And I was trying to get tax benefits in doing so. A very different type of investor is a growth investor as compared to a cash flow investor. So on the other hand, if I were a cash flow investor, the goal would be to try to create monthly income out of these investments versus growing that bucket. And as it turns out, the type of investments you're going to choose, depending on each of those two models, very, very different quite often. Okay. First and foremost, know if you're a growth investor or a cash flow investor or some type of hybrid between the two. And once you do that, it's important to just start doing the education process, learning about asset classes, see which ones match up well to what your goals are, start doing some research about markets, like what type of markets are going to actually give you the results that you want. And then lastly, really start spending some time with some of these operators, and don't think that this process will be just a 1 or 2 call process. Like this can take years to find an operator that you're comfortable working with. And there's a number of different strategies you can use to do that. As a whole, it's important for people to spend time with those operators and with many different operators so they can start to determine who is somebody that they know and trust, that they want to trust their dollars and hand over this sack of money and hope that they're going to be good stewards of your cash. That's a really high level overview of what that looks like. But as you figure those things out, you can really start digging in and getting into some more concrete ways of doing due diligence and vetting deals.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. I would say over time, as part of the education, when you start looking for passive investments to work with, most likely, I love how you talked about the operators, because I would much rather have a strong operator in an average deal or an average property versus having an excellent property and an average operator. There's just no comparison there, because an excellent operator is going to find they're going to make it work. But an average operator that doesn't have experience or doesn't have a track record, it's very easy to make mistakes in this business, because all you got to do is basically sit back and do nothing, and things will start going sideways real quick. So if you have operators that are really on top of it and you get to know them and you feel like there's something about them, the character that you would trust, that is something that you cannot, that person just is. And that kind of trickles through to all of the investing strategies, right? And that is like the common thread between all of the risk reward profiles, the business plans, the market they select, the investments they select to invest in, all types of things. And so I really love that you focused on the operator there. I think that's really important for listeners.
Yeah. And it's not so much have these people not made mistakes, because in an operator that everybody's going to make mistakes. Difficult situations will arise, but really the question is, how are they going to perform? How are they going to show up? What is their integrity going to look like when they're faced with difficult questions? Are they going to make decisions based on what's in the best interest of the investor, or are they saving their ass, excuse my French, or doing the right thing for the business? So, and you can find that by watching people over any amount of time. People will show up how they are going to show up, and just watch very closely, and people will be very transparent with who they are.
It's really funny. Like I've noticed that there are operators out there that I can just tell as a fellow operator, right? That there are people out there that want the acquisition fees, and they're incentivized to make deals happen, even though I look at the business plan and the assumptions that they make, and it just, to me, it doesn't make sense. Like I look at them like, man, I don't know how they're going to be able to do this, but maybe they know something I don't. But that's usually like a red flag, right? When you see something like that. So you have to be careful of the incentives, is my opinion. But the other thing I would say too to the audience, to piggyback on the people-based answer that you gave for the operators, people need to talk with people like you, because you have had experience in working with great operators and what it's like from that perspective that they're about to find themselves in. I think it'd be a great idea for people just to come to talk to you and approach you about, hey, what do you think about this operator? Or what should I do? Here's my goals. And I think that you have a ton of insight doing something like that.
Yeah. And I would also say, in addition to, I've done business and invested with really good operators, I've also invested with a couple of operators that are not really good and have been very negative consequences as well. You learn more, I think, in the lessons than you do on the sunny days, essentially.
Of course. Absolutely. Yeah. Very cool. That makes a lot of sense to me. Okay, so let's switch gears here just a little bit and move away from the purely real estate specific conversation. What I wanted to ask you is, obviously, throughout the phases in life, things have changed quite a bit for you and for your family, because you were in the corporate world and then you were side hustling, right? And then now you're doing this full time. Can you talk to us about how your mindset has evolved and how that's helped you move from phase to phase?
Yeah. Ultimately, mindset drives 90% of our decisions every single day. And the same challenge woken up by a good mindset versus a bad mindset, you're going to make different decisions every single time. I have been a guy who has been following the professional development mindset space, Tony Robbins type stuff, Jim Rohn, for literally decades. It's just always been a part of me and what I do. And it's probably because being in sales is tough and you need a cheerleader in your corner pretty much every single day, or I do anyways. I don't know about everybody else, but I certainly do. If I could pay somebody to stand next to my bed and be there cheering when I wake up, that'd be ideal. But I've leveraged back in the day tape programs and CD programs and podcasts and books. And like, I am just a sponge when it comes to all that stuff. And I think it's important because we don't always have control of what's going on in our environment, but we do have control of what we're putting into our brain and exposing ourselves to. So I think that's extremely important. Yeah, I think mindset plays a huge role. I made a shift in that space about 15 months or so ago, and I finally signed up and paid some money for some real coaching. I was always very excited to spend a few bucks on books and CDs and stuff like that, but I never went to in-person events for it, or I never hired a coach or anything like that. And I joined a mindset community in January of last year. And as luck would have it, I signed up for one-on-one coaching the same month that I actually got laid off from my W-2 of last year.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was perfect. It was funny because, beginning of the year, being in sales, you always have these big raw meetings with corporate America, and everybody's going around sharing what their goals are for the year. I think my goal was, just to give a relevant number, I think my goal was 100 million or something was the goal. And it came around to me and asked what my goal was for the year. And I said, $1 billion. And everybody laughed at me. And I remember thinking, I'm actually going to shoot for $1 billion this year. And by the end of the year, hopefully we get there. And if we don't, and I fall short and I'm 300 million, darn. But I didn't really fit in that environment because I had been setting big, hairy, audacious goals for myself and my family for 10 years. We do this goal setting process and bucket list items, all this other stuff. So anyways, so I started the mindset coaching. I get laid off. I have the one-on-one coaching, and it was a transformational period for me because I was moving from W-2 employee for 25 years over to entrepreneur, and that's a hard transition to make. So it was really critically important that I had a good guide through that process. And fast forward 8 months, and it's just unbelievable. I couldn't have picked a better place to be with where I'm at right now.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's a very important piece of it. Honestly, you got to look at some of the most premier athletes in the world, right? And I like to take an example of that because these are people that are world-class performers in what they do. You have Tiger Woods. Back in his day, he was the best in the world, and there's still plenty of great golfers. You have LeBron, you've got Aaron Rodgers, or whoever it is that you like in football or whatever you like in sports. All of these people have coaches, multiple coaches. Tom Brady has coaches, multiple coaches, right? One for how to throw a ball, the other for how he works out in the weight room, another for how he gets the gray matter between his ears straight, right? Mm-hmm. And dealing with all of that. And so the professionals out there get the help because it's so important to them that they're going to be able to achieve. They just don't know what you don't know, or you don't know what you don't know. And so I think it's super important for people to seek the coaching. And I love that you've spent some time and energy and money to get yourself right up in the head, because that is what drives everything. And that's super important. So I'm glad that you got yourself a coach, and that simple mindset shift of going from a do-it-yourselfer to now realizing that you need someone to help you with the accountability and with stuff that you just don't know. That's a game changer for you. And I encourage that for the listeners also.
One of the coaches that I hang around now, he talks about like a Toyota Camry versus an F1, whatever race car. And he always asks the questions like, which vehicle do you think needs more maintenance and needs more attention? Do you think it's the Toyota Camry, or do you think it's the one that's doing whatever 100 miles an hour around the track? And of course, like the high performance vehicle, the high performance person needs more resources and needs more attention spent on refining and critiquing and pointing it in the right direction, essentially.
I love that. I love that analogy. Thank you so much. I'm definitely going to be using that for social media later on. So
There you
don't
go.
mind if I do. Anyway, very cool. So I have one last question for you before we go into our rapid round.
Okay.
And that is, I have two questions, but let me see if we can squeeze them both in. The first one is, how has your family been affected by your journey through this this 3 degrees of freedom that you're working towards, mainly with the financial first? But how's your family been affected by this? Have they enjoyed this?
Sure.
Are they cheering you on, or were they like begrudgingly watching you go to your office all the time? And I'm just curious what your family's
Yeah.
take on all this.
Yeah. And I think it's an important question, because if you find financial freedom at the detriment of your family, that's not a win at all. So neat story. My wife and I, and this, people have different opinions on this, but we are tithers, but we choose where those dollars go. And I used to give a certain percentage of our income to basically to organizations that would give us a really great tax break. And that was part of the motivating factor of why we did it, was because we got a tax break. So we made the decision a few years ago that both my wife and I, we both have fantastic moms that worked their fingers to the bone for a large portion of their life, 60, 70 years, and did not have the financial abundance meet them at the end of the road that she and I had. So we made the decision that we are still going to tithe, but we're going to give it to our families to give them the financial security and the financial abundance that they were never able to achieve for themselves. And I can tell you it's a lot different writing a check to somebody you love than writing a check to some organization that's going to give you a tax break. And I'm of the mindset that, and I mentioned this early on, I believe that what you put out into the universe comes back to you tenfold. But if you can help those that you love the most, then there will be even better returns. And that's been our experience. We've been able to see both of our moms experience some security that they've never had before. The relationships have evolved and changed because of that. And like Jim Rohn says, if ever given the option of giving two different tip amounts, always give the bigger one, because yes, it's going to help them, but more importantly, you're going to be the guy walking around that knows that you gave the bigger amount. And it just feels good to give, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I think that answers your question.
It does. That does. I like that a lot. I think that this is, as you're walking throughout the journey, it's affecting your family and yourself in an abundant way. And so I love the fact that this is, as you walk down this path, like these layers of freedom start allowing you the choices, the ability to do this type of thing, right? Because that's what freedom is more choice. And so
And,
I really like that.
and it's, our kids are watching too. So our kids are learning
Like,
how to give by watching us as well.
yeah, that's fantastic. Okay, last question for you before we jump into the rapid round is, what is your definition of success, Randy?
Yeah, so real easily, do what you want, when you want, with who you want, period. That's it.
That's awesome. It sounds a lot like the 3 degrees of freedom. Nice and short and sweet there. I love that.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right.
Yeah.
Let's hop into our rapid round. These are the same 6 questions that I ask every one of my guests here. And so they're meant to be answered in about a 30-second or less duration. And so we'll just rapidly ask them and see where the things go. Are you ready to go?
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
All right. All right. Number 1, name any resource that was or is essential in your journey to pursuing your 3 degrees of freedom.
Podcast and books, very simply.
Which ones specifically? Do you have one?
So it depends on what phase you're at in your journey. Right now, I'm liking a podcast by Old Capital, which talks about economics and trends and the multifamily space specifically. But early on, it very much was Bigger Pockets and the Real Estate Guys radio show.
Awesome. Very cool. I'm going to plug my favorite podcast out there called the AllIn Podcast. I'm very much a poker person, even though they don't talk about poker on it.
Yeah.
It's tech startups and macroeconomic trends and politics, and just 4 guys that have a friendship together. And they're really smart because they're all in the tech space and the startup space. And so they're really like on the bleeding edge of what AI is doing, the war in Ukraine. They're just really smart guys. that are
Awesome.
in the venture capital world, and they have a lot of great resources. So you should definitely take a look at that one.
It's written down. It's on the list.
Awesome. Very cool. Number 2, if you woke up and your entire business was gone and you had $500, a laptop, a place to live, and some food, what would you do first?
What would I do first? God, that's a great question. I think I would do exactly what I'm doing right now. I would continue vetting operators and continue networking and introduce those two entities to one another.
Continue adding value, right?
That's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. That's really great. Number 3, what does your self-reflection and goal setting practice look like? I know that you mentioned this a little bit earlier on, but I wanted to wait for this question to see what your answer was.
Yeah, so this probably isn't. I'll try to give you the 30-second version. So here is my journal that goes with me everywhere.
Yep.
I write down 3 wins and 3 learnings every single day. At the end of the week, I summarize those. At the end of the month, I summarize those. At the end of the quarter, I summarize those. And at the end of the year, I summarize those twofold. Nice. I also do an annual goal setting process where I set up, like Brandon Turner's wagon wheel, finance, health, relationships, spirituality, bucket list items, and relationships. And I set goals in all areas, 1, 3, 5, 7, and 10-year goals. So I tried to do that in 30 seconds, but that is my process.
No, that's really great. Like I love it. I think that's a great like sneak preview. I would encourage people to reach out to you as well to get some more details. And I'm probably going to ask you after the show how that works because I'm curious myself. All right. Number 4, what are the core work habits that you attribute most to your success?
Work habits. So I'm of the mindset that I think if people worked, like really worked for 4 hours a day, they would get more done than most people who work 10 hours a day.
So true.
So that's 1. 2, I am a huge advocate of time blocking. And 3, I think you've got to have, for me personally, not everybody, but for me personally, I need to start the day with like the atomic habits strategy of I need morning meditation and prayer. I need to do some type of exercise in the day, and I need to talk to somebody that I know, can trust, and love to remind me of why I'm doing all of this. So those are just a few things.
I love that we hit the time freedom piece on here. I love it. We talked about time freedom, location freedom, financial. We're all squared away, man. I love it. Thank you for that.
Awesome.
Number 5, what books do you recommend to people to help jumpstart their success if they're just getting started?
Yeah, good question. Everybody knows the Little Purple Book, so we don't have to say that.
Sure.
Rich Dad Poor Dad, but I will say I'm a really big fan of Benjamin Hardy and what he's been putting out there. The Who Not How's Personality Isn't Perfect. He's got a whole series of books. I think he's got like an 8-book deal that he's going to be doing with, oh goodness, I can't remember the guy's name now. But he co-authored a bunch of Dan Sullivan. Yeah. Just a really great set of books that I think are just foundational principles that are really important. The Gap and the Gain is a fantastic.
I was going to mention that one as one of the books that was like of that 8, probably that's an essential, a must read. So absolutely love it. Very cool. Okay. Last question I have for you today. What tool or process has become one of your most important time, money, or energy saving ninja magic tricks that you use nearly every day?
Yeah, so I am a huge super user of LinkedIn. I used it for networking for 15 years for colleagues and peers. And when I launched my business last year, I was able to essentially, I raised $1 million in 2 weeks from my existing network. And it's amazing. It's just absolutely amazing. Get to know LinkedIn if you don't use it yet.
That's incredible. Thank you for sharing that. Again, I think that's one more thing I want to talk with you about afterward, because I'm a big LinkedIn power user and I just am so surprised that we haven't run into each other on that. But I definitely want some tips from you as well. We can exchange some ideas there. But anyway, Randy, this was awesome having you on the show. Let's say that people want to reach out to you or find out more about what you do. How would you direct them to be able to do so? So
Yeah. So LinkedIn is the easiest way. I'm literally on there all day long. You can also go to my website, impactequity.net. There is a spot on there to schedule time with me as well. And I've got all kinds of great resources out there. I've got a podcast, The General Art of Crushing It. I've been on 40 other podcasts in the last year as well. So yeah, as I mentioned before, I believe in givers gains. So if I can bring value to anybody that's listening in your audience, reach out and I'll do everything I can to help you.
That sounds incredible. And for those who are listening, we're going to be pasting everything that Randy mentioned in the podcast, and then also in the production material that he provided to us. I think he gave us all of his social links and all of more information to be able to look out and find more about Randy on the web. And we also want to remind you guys, as we're closing up the show, that please do comment and engage with us. Please subscribe, because the more that we're able to get all of that, we're going to appease the algorithm gods and give more and more exposure to these incredible guests like Randy, and then also get some extra cool people like Randy to come on the show as well. Really want to help more people as much as possible, and we can't do it without your help. And so we just want to thank you for listening all the way to the end of the show. So Randy, thank you so much for coming on. It was a blast and a pleasure to have you on.
Derek, thanks so much for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you, dear listener, as well. Randy and listeners, we will see you guys next time. Have a wonderful week.